In this video we're going to quickly go over the buying process in the UK for buying a car from a dealer, either cash or finance. It's going to have a lot of great tips in this that will save you money and make the process easier, whether you've bought a car previously or it's your first time buying. So assuming that you've selected a vehicle already, or you've got a good idea of what kind of vehicle that you're looking for, the first tip is going to be the best time to buy. A lot of people might already know this, but for the people that don't, garages are targeted on their monthly volume sales. So most garages will say have a target of, just an example, 100 cars. If they hit that 100 cars at the end of the month and they deliver 100 cars, not the sale date, deliver, then they'll get an extra bonus. So when it comes to the end of the month, they'll try to push cars out the door quite easily, opposed to at the start of the month. A silly way of doing it, but that's the way that they do it. So the next thing that you're going to want to do if you're paying on finance is work out your finance price, your monthly payments, what you can afford, and match it up with this vehicle. If you've not seen my last video on how to do this, I'd recommend you go back and watch it. So I'll just quickly pull this up. This was my last example for a Honda Civic at 15 grand, and we worked out the difference between the rates, which is down to the negotiation part, which I'll do a separate video on. So what I mean by working out your monthly payments is on 5% for this car over 60 months, it would be £312 monthly. This is a number that you need to know, and you'll need to know it because later in the sale you'll want to negotiate, and this makes it infinitely easier. If you already know what their bottom number is of what they're going to offer you, then that's great. You now know that you can take this number and negotiate with that later, opposed to negotiating with a sillily high number. So after you have selected your finance, this is the next tip. If you've got a trade-in, go to Cap and Glass website. It's a dealer's book. In the old days, all the car dealers got supplied with an actual Cap and Glass book, and they usually have one on site in the manager's office. However, there's a website that will value your car with dealer price and with the retail price. With the dealer price, it will give you below average, average, and above average for the condition of the car. Don't be surprised if they always give you the average one at standard. Don't worry too much about that, but you need to know what that number is. So say your car's worth, £4,000 or 4,200, for example, you know exactly what they're seeing on their computer. So if they offer you 3,900, you know that what their computer's telling them is going to be 4,200. It's cost you about £4 to get this valuation, but believe me, it is completely worth it because you can go in there with 100% reassurance that you're not going to get, tampered with in any way. After you've done this, obviously you're going to go and see the vehicle. Don't make an appointment for this. This is another tip. Don't make an appointment to go and see the vehicle unless it's absolutely necessary to do so, or it's a follow-up visit. The reason that you don't want to do this, I'll quickly explain, is because you just want to look like you're non-committal at this point. If you make an appointment and say, I really like that car, yes, it's a buying signal. However, they're going to treat you more as if you're an emotional customer, perhaps. This is just my advice. It's not hard to find a salesman. In fact, they'll find you. Just don't make the appointment. Unless you want to phone up earlier in the day and ask if the car's still there, that's fine, but don't make any set appointments, otherwise you might seem too eager. Dating advice. So after that, and you go and see the car, and you go to the car lot, allow the salesperson to do their job. A salesperson will approach you, this is normal, it's their job to do that. Respect what their job is, and as a former car salesperson, I would say that it's their job to do it. They're not trying to impose on you. Some of them come across as creepy because, let's face it, it's not easy to go and talk to random strangers and know that you're about to try and sell them something. The better the salesperson, the easier and more fluent this will be. However, if you just treat them like a person doing a job, it will go a lot easier, trust me. So allow them to do their job, allow them to demonstrate the car. While doing this though, remember they are doing a job to sell you a car, and they've got this whole process in mind at all times. They're a professional, at least it should be. So what your job as a buyer is to do is don't commit to the car, and I also mean that don't emotionally commit to the car. because you might not get the deal that you want. You know, it's a possibility that you might not get that deal that you want. So don't emotionally commit to that car. There's always going to be other cars. That's the most crucial thing, especially if you're a first time buyer. So don't commit to the car or show commitment. And what I mean by that is don't come across like, I must have this car, I love this car. Be reserved. Just let the salesperson do all the talking, let them try and work out where you are with the car, and this will help later in the sale. I'm not saying be a cold customer to them, not at all. By all means, engage them as a human being doing a job, but in the term of the sale about the car, be reserved. However, you do want to give them a wee bit of a buying signal. Right? The reason for this is the salesman, you know, they need to have something from you to let you know that you are interested in the car, but not so much that you can't walk away from it. You know, so a buying signal is quite simply like, I've heard good things about this car, I'd be interested in it as an option, you know, anything like that, you know, and that gives them incentive to try. So that's always a good thing to do. So the next thing you're wanting to do is test drive the car. Again, don't show the commitment. This is the time where most customers will give away how they feel about it, and it's where the salesperson will also try, well, most salespeople, I can't speak on behalf of all of them, but the reason why most salespeople, including myself, would try and push for a bit more of a commitment during the test drive is this is when the customer's most emotional. You know, they're in a new car, they're in a brand new car, they're loving it, you know, you've told them everything about it as a salesperson, that is. You've said to them, you know, it drives great, it's lovely, you know, how do you like it? You've primed them for this moment. Then when they're driving the car, they're so distracted with, you know, driving a new car compared to, obviously, they're not wanting to drive their own old one, or, you know, they've not got an old one now, or it's their first car. They're so enthralled with this process and the emotion that, you know, they've already emotionally committed to buying it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just go along, don't say much to them. You know, be reserved about the car. Speak to them as a person if you want, again, and a human being, but don't show them anything about the car. You know, they might ask you, how do you think it drives and stuff like that. You can just answer in whatever way suits your dialect in a non-committal way. Like, yep, it drives good. Something like that, not like, don't say, oh, it drives amazing, it's so much better than my last car, and things like that, because it makes the later process a lot harder. So after you've done this, you're going to go inside and run the numbers, and if you've got a trade-in, this is where it will get valuated. And usually the manager will valuate it, but it can be the salesperson with a wee booklet. Once again, you're going to know what this trade-in price is, so you don't need to worry about this. So you go inside, run the numbers, and then you negotiate. After they come back, they'll come back with a number sheet, and that will detail, if you're on finance, for example. If you're on finance, it will detail what your monthly payments is, what's inclusive in the payment options that they're giving you. Have they included, you know, service plans, VRIs, auto cares, or warranties, things like that. This is where it'll all be reflected in these numbers, the monthly payments. It'll also tell you on this, or at least it should on most of them, it'll tell you the flat rate that you're on. Once again, if you've not watched my last video, go back and watch it now, because this is crucial to know during this bit, because this is where people can lose thousands and not even realise it. They can actually lose, in the example I gave, they can lose £1,300 and think they've got a good deal and think they negotiated. Go back and watch the other one if you've not. So I'm not going to cover too much on this because I'm going to do a separate video on it. However, bear in mind with this, when you're negotiating, the majority of garages will have body shops and mechanic places, sorry, a mechanic shop and body shops on site, and they also have contacts for things that they don't necessarily do on site. For example, if the alloys are in a bad condition, you can request to have them refurbished, and the chances are they'll know a company and they'll get a discount for them to come out, refurbish them. Same with dents, scratches, bodywork problems. You can all make this inclusive in the negotiation, providing you've not obviously overcommitted to the car and said, oh, everything's okay and things like that, you know. So after you've negotiated, and this will be the biggest part that I'll do the separate video on, after you've done that, sign when the deal is met. So yeah, if you've done all of this and you're confident in what you've done, you're confident in your trade-in price, the sales person doesn't even matter during all of this. They're just a middleman, and their job is to basically walk you through this in the most fluent way, but you're already going to know how to do this. So if you've done all of this and you're confident about your trade-in price, you're confident you've got the right numbers, which you should be, because I've showed you how to do that, and you know that you're not getting screwed over in any way in the previous video. After that's all said and done, you should be happy to sign, you know, because it's exactly the deal that you came in to get. It's negotiated the way that you wanted it to, and then they'll go away and they'll set a delivery date. They'll get you to sign and maybe take a deposit at that point, and then they'll set you a delivery date of the car. And obviously when you come back for the delivery of the vehicle, yeah, and this is also the time where you'd want to empty your trade-in. Remember that, empty your trade-in. You know, don't leave money under the seats. The valeters will get it, honestly. The valeters used to have a wee pot of money in their valet department, and it was always full. The amount of money they found in cars, hoovering seats. So after this, only collect it if everything arranged is done. And what I mean by that is if there's any scratches or bodywork issues or alloy refurbishment, if any of that's been in the negotiation, make sure it's done before you pick up the car. If there's anything else at all that you've agreed, make sure it's there. If you've pre-arranged to have mats in the car, make sure they're there before you say to the salesperson, that's it, I'm happy to take delivery of the car. The reason for it is once you drive off the lot, your rights drastically decrease. So make sure it's all done first. And I'll guarantee you that if they're sitting there with a car waiting for delivery, and it's being held up by whatever it is they've forgot, and you say, I am not taking delivery of the car until it's done, they'll try and get it done that day. They will try and get it done there and then. They might originally say to you, oh, come back on Monday, come back on Tuesday, come back whenever, and we'll get it done. If you say no, and I'm not taking delivery of the car until it's done, they'll get it done that day. You know, this is very, very common. So I hope that makes things easier for the video. Please do check out my next video, which will be about negotiations and how to amalgamate this whole process into the best deal for you and what you would reasonably ask for. So if you found this helpful, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see my next videos, and share it if you know anybody this is going to be applicable to. Thanks guys, and good luck with your buying process.